Alright guys, we are live. As long as everything works correctly. So last time I gave a small snippet of the J2534 Domestic Asian class. And you guys had to look at like the screen from back over here, and it was rough. Hey Milkman. Oh, Diagnostic Network. Oh wow, thanks Scott and everybody over at Diagnostic Network. That's cool. Hey, today's a good day to wear my Diagnostic Network shirt. Hey, Miguel. Andrew. Yeah, I'm actually on time this time. I'm usually never on. I'm usually like 3 to 5 minutes late just because getting everything set up and having, everything go through the whole, from my streaming software into YouTube is all goofy. Hey, David. It is a good evening indeed. What was I saying? Anyways, last time you guys had to view a snippet of the class, it was really bad quality because you were on a camera that was over here looking at the screen, and I had to get the lighting just right, and it was horrible because you're looking at this screen that isn't designed to be filmed well because I was having issues with my ingestion software that was actually pulling the video. So I've got it fixed, so we're good. Hey Eddie. Yes, you caught one this time. So it is a chilly Sunday afternoon here in Oklahoma. So nothing better on a chilly day or a hot day than ice cold beer. This is from Guinness, our sponsor. I'm kidding. But really Guinness, if you want to sponsor, I'm all down. Delicious. Hey Carlos. Hey Bert. Yeah. You guys like that? My whole Guinness. Somebody needs to like snapshot that and send it to Guinness and tell them they've got to sponsor me. Because, nothing goes better than working on cars and driving. Or drinking and driving, right? Don't do that. Anyways. Hey, Bruce. Yeah, so we're going to do another... Hey, other Andrew. We're going to do another piece of that class. I kind of just want to show you guys what's in it. Yes, I want people to go to the Patreon page and pay to watch the class because that financially supports me. But also, I want more awareness of this class because I'm going to try to start teaching it as soon as it's fully completed. And I'm kind of like using this as a little bit of a dry run with the thing because it's always weird when this is my first like full 8-hour class I've ever built. Every other class I've ever put together, any curriculum PowerPoints are always just a couple hours of PowerPoint and usually in-shop work, so that way I'm there with the tech going. They don't last long. No, they don't. But anyways, I'm a diagnostic enthusiast. So that's the thing. I want, this is the first 8-hour class, so you guys get a sneak peek of it, because to be honest, the YouTube world is such a small world of everything. Hey, Power. So it's such a small amount of all the automotive world. Now, it's pretty small anyways. It really is kind of a small world when you start getting out there and talking to guys even across the country in the automotive world. But anyways, you guys kind of get little sneak peeks of it, and all the guys that are over on Patreon get to see the whole entire inception of the class. Because when I started showing them the class, it was actually on the old 4x3 aspect ratio platform with my old background. So the ones you guys have seen the last time and this time, I've already converted. I got the old class completely converted to 16:9, so it's much more aesthetic on a nice big projector. Hey, Michael. And David, hello. This is the 16:9 is a much more aesthetic picture, and it looks really good on a newer projector because they're all like 16:9 anyways. So that's the only problem I'd have is if it was in 4x3, because this thing is, I am like with the complete big bullet points all the way across the whole class, it's probably already 250 slides, and that's not each one expanded into other slides. So it's, I don't know, it's massive, but it's 8 hours of content. This is 8 solid hours of content that I try to speed up. So, anyways, I don't want to babble too long about it. But the big part of it is I wanted to kind of get you guys to see some of it because I want you to tell me what you're thinking, what you like about it. But Let's see. Sorry, I'm getting like 500 guys know that I'm on here, and they have to start sending me private messages to mess with me. I think Martino and Tommy were both trying to be trolls last time, so they'll jump in again and troll me a little bit. So let's see. Oh, I got to get it set up that way I can read your guys' comments still, because I like to answer the questions too. So when I do this class on Patreon, because right after I give you guys this little snippet of it, I got to go over to Patreon. We're going to teach the rest of this section of the class. So we're going to talk about all the entire JBox section, the entire devices section. So anyways, after I do like a snippet of it here, I go over to Patreon, and it's a private video for those guys. And it's always one-on-one interaction, kind of like a classroom. And that's what I like. I like to be able to have that interaction and have them ask questions and want me to expand on something. So we'll see how that goes. But anyways, how is everybody else doing this week? I did get to use the Cardac Plus 3. Thanks again from AESWave for that. I did get to use that this week a little bit. Did a GM flash, a Chrysler flash. Everything was flawless. Went off like I expected. And I wouldn't expect any less. I mean, it's a Cardac product. It's actually the first Cardac product I've ever owned. I've used Cardac products in other shops that shops had owned. But for myself, this is my first Cardac product to own. So I'm familiar with the software, with the toolbox software, and I'm familiar with using the device itself. I mean, a JBox is a JBox to some degree, which is why we're going to talk about that today. I mean, there are some massive differences and benefits and downfalls of all of them. But that's kind of why I wanted to talk about them today. And it's perfect because it rolls into me doing this little section for you guys about the devices, about the JBoxes, at the same time that I've got my new JBox. So, because I've been rolling with... Well, here's what's funny. At the beginning of the class, when I talk about what the things we're going to go through, because we've already talked about the PC, and we've already talked about battery maintainers, and browser setups, and a little bit of the software stuff. Do I like the Cardac better than the Bosch? No, because I've done some GM. I've been doing some GM diagnosis, and it's really nice to be able to have the data diagnostic tool with voltages that comes with the Bosch. And it only works with the Bosch or the MDI. It doesn't work with the Cardac. Now you can get the data diagnostic tool that comes with the GM download when you download the GDS2 subscription, or the Tech 2 GDS2 subscription. I don't remember. I have the yearly for GDS2. So when you download that, you get this data network diagnostic tool from GM. And that tool has a couple functions. It allows you to live view all the modules on the network, and then tells you when one drops out. And then it also has a voltage one, so it looks much like an oscilloscope to be able to see the voltages on the CAN lines or any of the network lines. It's a really helpful tool if you're going to already be there to program something, or your first go is to hook that up. See, Chris Martino's already here to troll. So I will say I like them both, and I don't know. I don't know which one I like better. The Bosch has been my tried and true unit for a long time. I've always used that JBox unit. I like it very well. The software is very sleek. The Shot Foreman Pro software that comes with it's good, and we're going to get into all of that. I can't say that I like anything more than the other for any reason other than the fact that I love the Cardac because it's the 3, it's brand new, it's nice, and I just got it. So of course I feel like the Cardac is nicer. I can say this about it, the functions that come with the toolbox are indispensable. Being able to have the skim reset, SRI reset, and then the knowledge base and information that's in the toolbox is fantastic for a beginner. Chris says, can I start over? I just got in. So before I do get started, I do want to mention something about that. Michael, I like GDS2. I actually do use it a lot. For a long time, it was one of the only OE scan tool softwares or tools in general that I always said I never liked because I'd always use the aftermarket tools I felt like were structured so much better. But as I've done more of these like 15, 16, 17, and even like 18, I've been doing Denali's and Yukons for collision centers. Is that toilet paper behind you? No, it's not. No, stop. As I've done so many more of those new ones, I'm finding that all the aftermarket tools are missing so many of the relearns and resets, and even when they do have the option, if you look at it versus like the OE tool using the GDS2, there's so much more proper instruction listed inside the tool that it helps you from having to go and look at the procedure in the service information, and a lot of the times the service information doesn't give you the step-by-step or all the information that's within the scan tool. And because so many manufacturers have so many of their procedures built into the scan tool only, it's not in the service information, it's kind of indispensable to have the OE tool. So I have found that with GDS2 and newer vehicles, it's almost a must, which is kind of how we knew we were all heading. You know, we were all going where eventually we're going to have that, but thinking about getting a sub. Yeah, it's like $775 for the year for GDS2, so it's not bad. I mean, we talk about buying a scan tool for a year for $775. If the shop's going to pay for it, then, you know. Nobody loves my beard. I just don't want to shave it. But, so, like I said, when someone said, start over, just got in, I need to talk about that real quick. So I've had a lot of people recently have joined the Patreon channel to watch the whole this class in its entirety. I've ran into a snag because I'm doing this probably 3 weeks out of a month. I'm teaching a portion of the class. Guys that have just got in, because of Patreon setup, they can't see the previous stuff that I did. But like, they pay for it's per month, so they pay for this month. They can't see the previous month stuff. So I'm like, oh, so I just took a link of those and put them in the new one. Well, what I realized is what I did was I gave stuff to a guy that only paid for 1 month that other guys have been paying for 2 and 3 months to see. Now, granted, it's structured to where none of it in there says you get my JBox class. It all just says you get access to specific content based on them. It's supposed to be every week I was going to do automotive help videos. And I have been doing those also. But what I'm running into is those guys paid for support and the class, and then these new people are coming in, and I'm thankful for everyone, but they're getting the same as the other guys. But then I feel bad because those guys didn't even know about the class before then. So I think as long as you jump on board by, I don't know, I'm going to say sometime in December with the Patreon channel, I'll give you access to all the beginning part of the class. After December, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that because it's not fair to all the guys that have paid for all those months to see the class. So because we're only on like part 5-ish, it's kind of unfair to those guys that have been paying. So the Autel JBox was used by tech in our shop last week to wireless program a 2012 Mercedes-Benz non-ECM. It went well. That's good, Gaston. I'm glad to hear that. I had a problem with the Autel JBox not too long ago. Andrew Jensen says a good place to buy a GDS2. The only place to buy it is it's a downloadable thing from GM's website, so it's acdelcotds.com, and then there's an option there. So, Shiver HT, thank you. I'm enjoying talking to you guys. But we're already 15 minutes in, so we only got like 15 minutes to do a part of this class, and then I'm going to jump over to the Patreon channel and do the rest of this section. So let's get right into it. I've got to kind of multi-boot my stuff here to where I'm using one computer to pull up the YouTube stream and see your guys' comments, and the other one I have to do the actual screen. So I'll pull up the hardware for GDS2 is virtually any JBox will work with it. The factory tool is the MDI2 or the MDI1, either one. I used the Bosch JBox, and now I'm using the Cardac with GDS2. No problems. So, if you guys can see that now, I'll make sure before I get too terribly far into it. The slide that's up now was the last slide that we went into when we talked about what power supply do I use. So we went through the whole section talking about different power supply options, and then I kind of gave a screenshot of the power supply that I use and the cost that's there. This one is similar to the one that I use. The one that I use is actually, I think, only found on LMV Bavarian now. That's Seth Thorson's tools, and it's a modified version of the one that's on the screen. Mine has like a voltage readout, and all the voltages are adjustable on the side. So let me get this pulled up. Live control room. So I can see your guys' comments all at the same time. Perfect. There. 15 minutes to troll. The Bosch VCI is the easiest to use, Power says. I think it is one of the easiest to use, especially the software is really easy to navigate. So the next slide we're going to talk about, so we've already talked about the Windows-based PC and the power supply option. Now we're on to the J2534 device, and I said maybe two, because if you run into a situation like me where you're using one JBox, the Bosch unit, the older MVCI, and it dies, you are without JBox. So I recommend, if you can possibly financially swing it, get two. It's a good idea to have two to have a backup. If you are a road warrior, a mobile diagnostician like myself, you usually will have more than one hardware piece. I have been able to get away with really only a JBox with the myriad of aftermarket tools that I have. I didn't need a, really my biggest hiccup was not having a VCM2. So that's kind of next on my list is a VCM2 and then a, maybe a YTech, we'll see. The fact that my Cardac 3 works great with YTech 2.0, which means 2010 and up, I have a lot of functionality, not full functionality like an actual micropod. But really, the only time I'm ever using something like a micropod is for programming, is what I would need it for. And the micropod is the Chrysler tool. And my Cardac Plus 3 has been good so far, and I've not had a whole lot of problem using the JBox to do Chryslers. So, VCM2 is next on my list. But that's where we're at. So it looks like our slide is coming up properly. Make sure I can see this. Yeah. Marcos, I agree. I flash with my Power Max. So Martino says, can I flash with Linux? So most of the OE softwares do not support Linux as the native OS. Now I know Chris knows this. That's why he asked this. But within Linux, many of the versions, Ubuntu, let's see, even older stuff like Red Hat, and I think Ubuntu is what most people are using of Linux now, or Wolfenstein or something. Yes, there's all kinds of different crazy names for Linux versions that are out there. But Ubuntu does have quite a few built-in emulators to run a Windows OS within the software inside of the OS. So yes, it is possible to run almost anything you could run on Windows through Linux. Start off from scratch, do first program with equipment. Oof, that's a long conversation, Jason. I will touch on that a little bit as we go, because we're going to talk about cost of equipment here a little bit. So we're talking about JBoxes. So here's some of the common devices you see here. So you're not able to really see, I don't know if you can see my mouse on the screen or not. If you can, you'll see I'm hovering there at the top. Top left on the launch JBox 2. Then next to that's the red VCM2. Beside that is the Bosch built Mercedes DOS 4. Then we've got the MDI 2. We got a rat box. We got some mongooses. Yes, or mongai. How would you say mongooses? Mini mongoose. We've got the older Bosch MVCI, which is a unit I used and still use today wirelessly. I'm scared to flash with it because I'm a chicken. Then there is the unit next to that you will see is a Bosch JBox that is green. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen it in green before. I've never seen it in person in green. I have seen it in gray, and that is the MTS 6531, I believe is what unit that is. Next to that's Cardac M, and then right above that is the Cardac Plus 3. So, that is just a few of the devices. As we go down this class, you're actually going to see there are many, many more than this. These are just the ones I chose to put a picture on this screen. And a matter of fact, if I flip down to a bunch of slides down the row, which I'll give you a little sneak peek because you guys won't be able to see it later, here are just a few other ones that are in there. So I'm going to talk about all of these. So when you guys that see these are none of the common ones you see every day anymore. With exception of maybe the Bosch unit and the VCM2 and MDI. But regardless, there are a ton of different J2534 devices out there. So the big thing is what is the J2534 device? It's the hardware that acts as the gateway or It's the piece of hardware that communicates between the engine computer and the engine and your computer. So how I wrote out the definition is it translates messages sent from the PCM into messages of the language or the protocol of the vehicle's ECU. So there are many different protocols out there. There are language types, Spanish, English. Those are human protocols. That's our protocol we use to speak to each other is English here on this platform. If we were in, a different manufacturer, Spain, Spanish, or Mexico, or wherever Chile or South America, they would have Spanish as their protocol they would speak. Just to put it into an analogy to help you kind of understand, different manufacturers use different protocols. Even within different manufacturers of different years, or even the same year, same make, there may be multiple protocols within a vehicle. So this pass-through, and I say pass-through and put it that way because a J2534 device was designed as a pass-through style. So the information is sent directly out of the PCM, and it goes through the device, not stopping, goes directly to the computer. And the VCI makes some changes there, but it's done on the software, the API level within the computer. And I specifically put that in red and outline that because I want to Spanglish. Let's see. Real quick to answer a question. I've been told by a doctor that when it's Never mind, Chris. So the reason I specifically say something about pass-through versus other options, the factory Nissan hardware and the factory Chrysler hardware originally, and even now with the MicroPod 2, they were originally designed as the VCI was part of the process, the J-box, the hardware, the communication interface, the vehicle communication interface, the VCI, was part of the process. So the information was sent from the PC to the VCI, and then there was some IPO, input, programming, output functions built into the VCI, and it would convert the images, do calculations, check the calibration with, it would check sectors of the calibration to ensure it was correct, and then it would send it to the car. And sometimes the VCI itself would perform the function on the ECU itself. So that's how micropods work now, where you're requesting a command from the Chrysler Network Cloud to do something to the micropod, and the micropod then does something to the car. That is not how a J-box works, and that's important to understand because that's why there are some issues and hurdles with Nissan and Chrysler vehicles. Was the original programming, the original design of changing software in a module in the car is completely different. So when the J2534 standard came out and became legislation, those manufacturers had to rewrite software in order to update software when in an ECM in a manner that the car wasn't even designed for. That communication protocol, the ECM, neither of those were designed to accept software updates in that way. So that's why they're so problematic. I know you can answer in time. What laptop would I need in order to get started without having trouble? Special features that the laptop needs, if so, why? Ooh, that is a lot, Jason. I'll try to see if I can cover that in a bit. Because we only have a few minutes before I got to go. So I wanted to kind of give you guys just a little taste of what's going on. So, getting past that part, I wanted to cover what the differences between the J-boxes are, which one's the best. That's totally opinionated, but I'll give some examples of why I think the way that I think. We're going to talk about how much they cost and the differences in them, and sometimes even why. And then we're going to talk about why do I need two. And I'm going to answer that question throughout all the slides. There's not a slide to address why you need two. I'm going to make it apparent to you what the downfalls of relying on a single J2534 device are throughout the portions of normally of the entire class. So the first device that I wanted to talk about was the DrewTech devices. There are a few out there, so I wrote up the Cardac Plus 2 and 3. I wrote them as one line. They are two uniquely different devices, the 3 being basically a 2 with additional functions. The Cardac M is different than the Plus devices. It was developed as an expandable platform. It was their original option. It was their original design in order to address future expandable updates, and it's still a viable design, and I believe it's still going to be supported going forward. So that way the people that have an M have the ability to continue to add on for a lot less than purchasing a whole new device. The Mongoose Pro, it used to be just called the Mongoose, now they call it the Pro. There's some changes that have been done. This line has been expanded as well, because it's also a very viable option for those specialty shops or shops that only want to work on 1 or 2 brands outside of the OE tools they have. And then to make it interesting / cover some of the other things that DrewTech offers, I put the RAP 2 and the Drive Pro or Drive Crash in here, and there's a bunch of information about those different devices in this class. And I'm going to cover why they constitute as a J2534 device and how they differ and what their benefits and pitfalls and limitations are, just based on what they are over having a standalone J2534 device. And if you're not familiar with those two devices, that's fine. I'm going to cover those. So the first part of that I'm going to cover is just the Plus 2 device. So the Cardac Plus 2 is probably the most widely used device out there. It meets all of today's standard protocols, and I believe it even has the additional third protocol that's used by Chrysler, third CAN protocol that's used by Chrysler, third CAN channel that's on there. I'm not 100% sure that it has the additional third channel, but Chrysler uses a third channel, which was the need for Mega CAN, so I don't believe so. But it is the most valid OE validated unit out there. So if you look at the list of every OE and what tool they validate, so which tool they offer tech support when you're using their software, it is on the list the most. Also, because it's DrewTech, they offer pretty good support compared to everyone else out there. There's no one that offers better support for J2534 devices than DrewTech themselves, at least for their own equipment. Bosch doesn't offer very good support if you ever try to get support from them on that. And some of the other guys out there, I know Dearborn Group also offers some pretty good support, but I can only speak to DrewTech, so I'm going to say DrewTech and Bosch because that's what I have owned and used. So I will say they have great support. Now the Toolbox 3 software comes with a J2534, comes with any of the J2534 devices you buy from DrewTech or DrewTech rebranded devices, which we will get to in just a second. Two of the same model or two different models. Sandra, I will cover that. I'm going to recommend two different models, to be honest, and I'll get to that. Well, I don't know if I'm not going to get to it with you guys because I only got a couple minutes. I want to cover the next 3 or 4 slides just real fast. The Toolbox 3 software has a myriad of fantastic things built into it, and it's a useful tool even if you don't own a DrewTech device. You can download the Toolbox for free. I don't know if you're going to be able to get access to it without having a valid serial number to a Cardac or Cardac rebranded device. As you can see, the MSRP for the Plus 2 is $1,600 to $1,800, which is nearly the same price as the Plus 3. So this is becoming almost an obsolete device when it comes to looking at purchasing a new one. But if you have a Plus 2, it is a fantastic device. You can find them used all over the place, especially the rebranded ones, and we're going to get right into that next. So when I say that, the Cardac Plus 2 has been rebranded as a ton of other devices, and they're almost identical. Firmware is different, for sure, which is the software loaded inside of the device, which means that it's very possible that the actual hardware inside the device is slightly different as well. And me and Chris Martino have talked about this, and I think he can confirm that the hardware inside of some of the other rebranded devices is slightly different. It usually will have absolutely no bearing on the functionality of the device, but it's been like these few instances where we've had some weird software-hardware combination issues, and I believe it was just if we would have switched computers, we would have fixed it anyways. So we'll cover that as much as we can. But what am I talking about rebranded? Well, that launched JBox 2 over to the side there. That's a DrewTech Cardac Plus 2 unit that's just rebranded as a launch tool. Along with that Delphi DS Flash unit. That is a rebranded Cardac. That AEZ Flasher 2 is a rebranded Cardac Plus 2. These are all the same units on this page. We add in the Ease Diagnostics unit, which I just borrowed from a friend of mine, Ashley Powers, thank you. Borrowed that the other day. It is a Cardac Plus 2 device. It uses the Toolbox 3 app. There's another app that comes along with Ease that they bundle with it, just like AZ has another tool they bundle with it, and I believe Delphi does too. So I don't know if there might even be a benefit actually of purchasing one of these rebranded units over the Cardac Plus 2, because you still are offered support through DrewTech. And then, of course, the most widely used unit that I see is the pass-through. Now what's funny is this picture that I put on here, I kind of wanted to see if anyone was going to say anything, but I don't have enough time to hang around. But the unit that you see on the screen is actually the Pass-Through Pro 4, which is the Cardac Plus 3 unit. But they are almost identical in their outside dimensions, so that's what's kind of interesting. It is actually 4:31, and I have to get going. I want to appreciate everyone for hanging out. happened with a Catholic uncle shop. Chris, that's funny. Guys, thanks for hanging around. Sorry I couldn't do more of the class. I do have to go over to patreon.com/Keith Perkins and do the rest of this section, the J2534 stuff, where we get past Drew Tech here in a moment after we finish all the rest of those devices. I will see you guys next time. Diagnose Raglan, sorry late party, helping son. No problem. There are a ton of different things. This is a very small section of the beginning of this, but I got to get over there and teach the rest of that. So you guys have a good evening. Thank you for hanging out. And hopefully, if you guys can, come on over to the party over at Patreon. We're going to finish doing this. You do have to be a diagnostician level or higher patron to see the class, but I promise it is worth it. It is going to be 8 hours of material when it's done. So if you guys jump on board at Patreon sometime in December, before January 1, you will have access to all the part of the class I've already finished, which covers PC, operating systems, requirements, software needs, browsers. We went through the power supply stuff. We're getting into the J2534 hardware now. We've got a lot more to cover on that. And then we're going to get into how to flash, what to flash, limitation stuff. It's a whole 8-hour class designed to take someone from I've never flashed a car before, I have no idea about it, I just know that it exists, all the way to I can now flash these domestic and Asian vehicles, and I've got some knowledge and some information that I'm armed with in case I run into a snag. So, we'll see you guys over there. Remember, if you jump on before the end of December, you can get all the other stuff. After that, guys, you're just going to be behind until I offer this class on DVD with the book. So, we'll see you guys next time. Shush, Chris. Thanks, Miguel. Thanks, Mike. See you guys later. Someone let you go. Yes, Andrew, go back and look at my video named I Got Fired. So, it's interesting. But, we'll see you guys next time. I got to go, for real.